Hi, I'm Carol Baskin from Big Cat Rescue, and this is Cat Chat. And today we're talking with the operations manager, Gail Ingham at Big Cat Rescue. And I thought you guys might enjoy hearing what it's like to run one of the world's largest sanctuaries. We are the world's largest accredited sanctuary that's dedicated entirely to big cats. And Gail is the person that makes all of that happen. She handles all of the volunteers and all the day-to-day crises. So welcome, Gail Ingham.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
So one of the things people ask me all the time is, mostly students, what kind of background do I need to be able to get into the animal rescue business or to have the glamour job that everybody thinks you have? And I think they would be shocked to hear what your background is and how that really made you the perfect fit for this.
Well, we get interns from all over the world and a variety of studies in college. We do have a lot of wildlife conservation backgrounds. We have a lot of biology, science background. And surprisingly enough, I came from an accounting background, but I had been a volunteer at the sanctuary for about 6.5 to 7 years when this position became available. So I had 7 years of experience working at the sanctuary as a volunteer, but that did not even begin to really train me for all of the stuff I had to learn in the last 4 years as operations manager.
When did you first start at Big Cat Rescue?
I started at Big Cat Rescue in 2003.
And
I started at the bottom as a red shirt and worked my way to senior keeper.
How did you first hear about the sanctuary?
I actually had just moved to Tampa in 2002. My dad's family is from Tampa. So I moved here to help my dad and take care of my grandparents' property. And got a job in Oldsmar, and it just so happened that one of the senior keepers was also working there. And she was handing out flyers for back then when we had our family day where we just roped off sections and everybody stood around and people just walked around. And she gave me a flyer and invited me out to the family day event. So I came out for the family day event, and the next Monday at work I was like, how do you volunteer out there? What do you do? So she gave me all the information. I came out for orientation and took orientation on Saturday, came back that next Sunday, and started cleaning cats.
And for the people that don't know, when did you start as the operations manager for Big Cat Rescue?
I started as operations manager in January of 2010.
And when you started, was it the kind of job you thought it would be? Did you know enough from your previous experience there to have an idea of what you were in for, or was it a total shock?
50-50. I had a general idea of like the food prep because, you know, I helped do that. And I had a general idea of how the tour things went from doing tours. The actual cat care maintenance end of it, like all of the medical aspects of the older cats and you have to catch them, take them to the vet, all of the just maintenance and repairs of the sanctuary was, that was the stuff I had to learn.
What is a typical day for you at the sanctuary? And I know that's a loaded question, but go for it.
So typically there is no typical day. Every day has its own set of issues and things going on. I start my day at around 7 o'clock in the morning, and I end my day at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So it's a long day, and it varies with going to a cave to look at frogs that a cat has caught and ate a part of, or looking at some weird poop to, you know, draining water out of something and moving a cat into a hospital, going to bed, dealing with tour guests that don't understand something, just cleaning out cages. It's landscaping. It's a variety every day.
Today at the staff meeting, you were telling me about dealing with some of the rain issues that we've had. There's been so much rain it's like rained every day since April, I think, except for 3 days. And so the water has been piling up in some of the low areas. And you were telling a pretty funny story, I thought, about how, kind of the buck stops with you when it comes to getting some of this stuff done. So how about sharing that with our guests?
Yeah, I was trying to pump some water from one area to another to drain off some of around some cat cages and some of the areas where the public go down the tour path. And I was laughing because I was the only one that had water boots on. So I said yesterday, I spent most of my day playing in the mud because I was walking around in these puddles trying to put pumps in there and like 3 inches of water, trying to keep the crap out of the pump to get the pump of water out of the section. So it was a really fun day.
You had a little bit of excitement a few nights ago when you were awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Oh yeah, no, it was like 1:15, 1:30. I got a phone call, which truly I thought was a prank, because it was this young girl on the phone who identified herself as the dispatcher from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, and they had a call that someone had sighted a white tiger loose, and they wanted to know if my tiger was in its cage. So like I said, I thought it was a joke, and I'm like, well, she was just a little while ago. So I had to get up and put my boots on and grab my flashlight and drive all the way back to her and punch her, and sure enough, she was laying right there, shining in the moonlight. So I went back and called them and said, no, it's not mine, I have it. And then they're like, okay, well, can you check and see if all of your tigers are where they're supposed to be? But fortunately, since I was out, I drove the whole property and they did a head count and made sure everybody was where they were supposed to be. So it was an interesting few hours, because then I had to go outside the gate and talk to the sheriffs that were out there and give them some information. And so it was like 3:30 before I got to go back to bed.
And then you got back up at 7 the next morning, or you're back at work at 7?
6.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so my days are very interesting and very varied. I mean, there's no typical same routine every day. There's generally the same stuff, but it's always different.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
I think that the cats, cleaning the cages and just, taking care of the cats.
And you don't get paid to actually clean cages, so that's your volunteer time.
Well, not cleaning in the sense of going around and cleaning their lockouts. When I say clean out the cages, I mean like go in and landscape it, clip up the palmettos, make sure it's all raked out, and taking care of that aspect of the cages. I don't cages, the volunteer cages.
That's one of the things that is unique about Big Cat Rescue, is that all of our paid staff, and I think there's like 10 or 11 paid staff, are paid to do administrative work. So Gail is paid to manage volunteers to do all of the animal care issues that have to get done out here. And by doing that, with the number of volunteers that we have logging the kinds of hours that they do, it's the equivalent of having about 30 paid staff. So the money that people donate can actually go to the cats, because the people who are getting paid here are all managing other volunteers or are managing aspects of the sanctuary that volunteers just could not do on a consistent basis. And I'd like to talk to some of our other employees as well about some of the administrative work that they do, because when people think of a sanctuary, and I think especially when people are thinking, oh, I want to run a sanctuary or I want to work at a sanctuary, they think they're going to be playing with cats all day or with the animals all day. And that's just not a big part of your job or of any kind of paid job that they would get anywhere.
Right. Yeah, if I want to do cat time, it's on my volunteer time. It's off hours. Because I don't have time just to walk around and visit with cats. And, if I'm not amongst the cats, it's because I'm looking at issues that the volunteers have called about.
And having to deal with so many issues at one time, I think that's one of the things that you particularly excel at, is that you can have so much stuff going on in your head about what's going on with the tour check-in and a cat that may need to be observed because her feet have been reported, she's limping, or dealing with making sure people are getting their lunch breaks and all of that kind of stuff. Is there anything in your past that prepared you for that kind of complex juggling?
No, pretty much, like I said, I come from an accounting background, so I was always a one-person show in my office doing my own thing. So dealing with the vast amount of people that I deal with on a daily basis and on a weekly, monthly here is all new for me and has been a huge transition to interact with so many different personalities on a daily basis that I've gone through some training to help me learn how to communicate better with so many different personalities. Hold on just a second. Hello? Yes, no problem.
And this is typical of Gail's day.
Okay.
She can't have a conversation without the phone ringing or a text coming in.
All the way down. Okay, please. Yes, I never a dull moment. There's always someone calling me on the radio or calling me on the phone. There's always 100 questions.
All of our staff and volunteers carry radios except for me, because I cannot understand anything that they say on the radio. So they know that if there's something really desperate out there, they need to call me on the cell phone. But I am so impressed with Gail's ability to monitor that radio on her hip all day long and understand what all of these people are saying to her. In the course of a day, how many people do you usually have on staff as far as volunteers go? Volunteers and interns.
Volunteers and interns. Interns 6 to 8, except on Thursdays when I have all of them, which is 12 to 13. And then here 6 to 8 volunteers.
And I think right now we have something like 96 volunteers in our program who have to be putting in at least 4 hours a week. So it's not like you're dealing with the same 6 to 8 volunteers every day. You're dealing with different people depending on what day of the week or...
I have pretty much Monday through Friday, which is my 34 hours. I have a set number of people that are consistent Monday through Friday. I very rarely have people that end up coming during the week. They're usually weekend people, Saturday, Sunday. So our volunteer coordinators usually end up with the weekend.
You often do your volunteer time on the weekends, so I'm assuming you're working with those other people as a peer more on the weekends than throughout the week.
I do volunteer hours during the week too, because my actual day out on the property is 12 to 13 hours, and due to that it's staff time. So I'm doing anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 hours volunteer time every day. So try to take my days off as days off, but I end up usually going like to Lowe's for supplies or picking up stuff here and there. I'm always available by phone if the coordinators have questions. I always try to make myself available for help if they need it.
I know it's taken like a concerted effort for people to get you to go away on your day off.
I'm getting better. Yeah, getting better.
When you see all of these interns coming from all around the world, what is it when you're working with them that you hope to instill in them when they leave?
I hope to instill in them this is going to sound horrible, but maybe a better work ethic in the sense that make them more notice things that need to be done, be more observant, being more open to a variety of things to do, not to assume that it's going to be just a small portion, that there's a huge area of things that they can do and kind of get involved with, and just they're all hard workers for the most part. Everybody, tries to pull their own weight. Just try to make them be more aware of the daily things that maybe other people don't focus on, that are things that need to get done. Keep in your head, these are all things that need to be done, and just people are going to move on to other jobs. They're going to appreciate if you can take the initiative to do the little things without having to ask.
Well, it's interesting because that's actually how you got your job. When we were looking for a new operations manager, we had put out an appeal to our entire volunteer group because we only hire from our volunteer pool for the most part, and especially for this kind of work. And of the candidates that I got back, what I was looking for is who are the people who are out there that can manage themselves and that can get things done. And across the board, everybody agreed that you were the person, and especially my family, my father more than anybody, because he's out there on the property all the time and he sees what's happening all the time, and he would frequently comment about how you were just always busy doing something. And sometimes he would say to me he thought you were the only volunteer here because you were the only one that he would see out moving around. And then he never goes into food prep and finds that's where everybody's sitting in the air conditioning. So I think that initiative, if you can instill that in these young people who come to intern, is something that will serve them for their entire lives. Speaking of that, how old are your interns usually?
Well, you have to be 18 to volunteer. So occasionally we do have some 18-year-olds that want to intern right out of school. But typically our ages are 22, 23, 24 in the area. They've been through college at least 1 or 2 years. They're doing the summer to experience.
In most cases, I'm thinking this is probably the first time that they have been away from home and away from an educational, dormitory type environment. So it seems like an awful lot of them are getting their first real feel for what it's like to be a participant in this world when they're coming here. So I think that the work that you are doing with them and showing them how they can really make a difference with their lives is something that is going to stay with them forever. I watch some of them on Facebook after they leave, and they always talk about how much they love their experience here and how much they miss the people that they worked with. So it's very exciting to me to see these people really getting something out of the internship and out of the volunteer work that they do here. I
think we finally have really got a handle on our intern program now, and I think the interns are really trying to get more out of the program. They're not just coming in and cleaning cases and doing landscaping. We're trying to get them involved in working with, like with last summer, how they all had to write up that laws thing that we did. Trying just to get them more involved in not just us, but everything we encompass and everything we believe in, our mission, what we're trying to do with legislation and stuff like that. So I think that they're finally starting to realize that there's so much more than just cleaning cases and picking up food. So I think they're enjoying it. I think that's why we had a good return this year with our level degrees.
Yeah, the intern program has just excelled beyond our wildest expectations in the growth and in the how all encompassing, is that a word? All inclusive that it is as far as their training goes.
Right.
Training is a big part of what it means to be a volunteer out here. Can you talk a little bit about the training program and how people move through those different progressions?
When you first come out after orientation, we start you with what we consider we call it the partner side. Partners are people that typically don't like to be outdoors too much. They're not either physically able or can't take the heat or they're really cold. And they help us do tours and they do events. They're an integral part of the process and they're a very important part. They help us in areas where other people can get outside and do all the really hard physical labor and stuff like that. So we start them at the partner side, learning how to do tours, check people in, do thank you notes, working in the gift shop, helping to, restock, clean, and whatever. That gives us a chance to get to know them, have a lot of people meet them, gives them an idea of what the sanctuary is about, what their mission is, and they get to go out on tour, so they get to see the cats in the sanctuary. And after they meet a certain hour and time requirement that they are defined and they want to become a keeper, then they get to move to the keeper side. So the first 3 months that they're here, they're getting their classes. We have like a set number of classes that everyone is required to take. That is informational with safety, the variety of things that they need to learn about being a volunteer at Big Cat Rescue. So then they move into the keeper side, and then they'll learn how to clean the cages, how to work on projects. Then they progress through to the next level, which would be a yellow keeper. And that's when they're going to learn how to operate, they're going to learn how to do enrichment, they're going to learn about feeding the cat, they're going to move on to the next step up in bigger cats. And after they are yellow shirt for a year, then they move up into the senior keeper, which is taking care of quarantine, the leopard, the lions and tigers. And again, more training is involved, always safety reminders and stuff like that. So it's a set process that works pretty well.
Are there things, one of the things I really appreciate is that you, I think, have spearheaded the meetings, the pretty regular meetings of the volunteer coordinators. Are there things that the coordinators see in the course of their work with volunteers that, if they had a perfect world, what would their volunteers be doing?
We actually haven't really talked about that. When we meet once a month and we just talk about things that are going on. Like there were policy changes within the volunteer program. So we addressed what we thought were some gaps in the the process of some of the policies who like the evaluation that we design for tours and that we design for the application process to make it more streamlined and make it I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for, but more of a professional evaluation than a popularity contest. So how are they truly doing? Were they safe? Where they are? That type of thing. And we talk about issues that we may be having. We discuss cats, things that need to be, watched out for different cats. So we discuss the medical issues for cats, so that what to do on the weekends as far as medications and stuff like that. Because our coordinators are also the people that hand out our minutes. And then we just talk about different volunteers, if they're having issues with a particular volunteer, is anybody else, experiencing that same thing, and what seems to be the issue, and what can we do to help resolve the issue with that, and how we want to handle it. So it's been, I think, really helpful. I think the coordinators have really appreciated that we're actually getting together once a month and discussing kinds of things.
It does seem to be helping, and I think it's been great that there's such a concerted effort to kind of be a unified force.
Yes.
One of the recurring themes throughout 20 years of running a sanctuary is that there are perceived, if not real, class separations between red shirts, yellow shirts, and green shirts. And over the years, we have tried a number of different ways to mentor, to have the green shirts and yellow shirts mentoring the red shirts and yellow shirts to bring them up into... okay, I see David just came up here, so how do I make sure that he can join us in the chat? So while I'm trying to mess around here on the side, can you talk about the things that are being done to try and bridge those gaps between the different shirt colors so that people are all feeling included?
Well, we try with the new red shirts that are in the gift shop for the first 3 months to make sure that they get included. We offer to let them put food cards if you're here in the evening at feeding time. We're working on projects. We can go get them and bring them out. And everybody's hot and sweaty and dirty, so we want to make sure we share that with everybody. So we just try to include them. I don't interact with them a lot because they're typically doing tours, and so I only interact really if they're coming out to work on a project. I tend to spend more time with them once they become yellow shirts because our red keepers, and I just try to make sure they're keeping on their hours. They really are. Oops.
Sorry about that. I was trying to let David in, and I think I took a picture of you. I am obviously new to Cat Chat here.
Yes, you did. There you go. You took a picture of my profile. But yeah, so we just try to make sure everybody stays involved, and if we're doing something fun like doing a big enrichment or something, we make sure we try to go get everybody and bring them out, and so they can share in the fun. We try to get them involved in the enrichment on Wednesday nights.
Talk about the enrichment that they do on Wednesday nights, because I think that's a really wonderful thing that I don't know who started doing it, but that would allow people who can't come during the week to actually get in some weekday hours doing some stuff for the cats.
Yeah, that's been going on since I started in 2003. There was always one night during the week that was enrichment night, and it starts about half an hour to 45 minutes after evening time, and depends on what we need. Sometimes if the weather is good, they'll go out and just hand out enrichment to the cats, or we go and watch enrichment get it out. And then if it's pouring down rain and they have to do indoor stuff, then they're making nutriment. They're making fruit sickles for the outdoors, blood sickles, sardine martinis, making spice bags, or they make the big boxes that we take out to the big cats. And they do that for about 2 hours on Wednesday nights.
I'm sorry, I keep making the page smaller and smaller, and I'm trying to make it larger and larger. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't see David up here anywhere.
I saw him pop up on the screen there for a second, and then now I don't see him.
Yeah, so.
What is the hardest part of your job?
Well, it's all hard. I don't know. I don't think there's any part that's any harder than the other part. I mean, it's equally, each part has its own set of good and bad. I think the part I have the least interest is to have to be out and deal with so many of the tour aspects. But that's the hard part for me, because it's trying to make sure that I get all the stuff I want to get done behind the events, but making sure that I share my people on the other side of the event to do all the tours that are coming in, and make sure that we have tour guides and backups and all that for all of the different types of tours we have coming in. Like we'll have all the expedition tours, like 60 tours coming in a day, and I only have 3 people. That's the.
Yeah, because for those who don't know how it works out here, is we have people who are in the partner program and people who are in the keeper program, but there are never enough people in the partner program to handle all of the tours, I don't think. So they end up having to pull your keepers to go out and do the tours.
Correct.
Which is why our tours are late in the afternoon, so that you guys have the chance to get the cages
till from 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 and 12:30 on a good day to get all the cats cleaned. And then if I only have a few keepers and we have to keep them away to take care of all the tours, which we need the tours. The tours are they're our main thing. That's how we take care of our cats. It makes their day a lot longer, because they'll then be out till 2, 3, sometimes 4 o'clock in the afternoon, finishing up the cleaning once the tours are done. So I think that's probably the hardest for all of us.
You mentioned briefly feeding, and that's a big part of your day, and something that is always interesting to people. Can you kind of go through the process from the day before or 2 days before when you pull food to how it actually goes from there? Well, maybe even back it up to how the food arrives and what is involved in when a food truck arrives, and take it all the way through it actually being the time of delivery to the cats.
Okay, well, we're USDA regulated, obviously, and so we order all of our food from USDA approved sources. So I have like a red meat delivery, I have a chicken delivery, and about, I want to say quarterly, sometimes it's a little longer than quarterly, we get our carnivore diet delivery, which is ground muscle meat with vitamins and everything, and that's our big delivery. Typically, when we order the chicken or the red, it's smaller. It's only like 30 cases. I order that more often because of space. And when we get our mush delivery, it's 400 cases of meat that pretty much fills our big freezer, and that takes a few hours to unload. That's our hardest delivery for meat. So
what do those cases weigh?
The mush cases weigh about 40 pounds. The chicken and red can weigh clear from 60 to 90.
Oof.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And that's taken off the truck how?
By hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the driver unloads off the pallets and puts it in the back of the truck, and then we grab it with the back of the truck, which is about shoulder height, and carry it in the freezer. So it's like you don't have to go to the gym that day.
No, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's very brutal.
For people that don't know, what is the mush?
The mush is what we call it's our carnivore diet. It is a blend of ground organ, bone. I think there's chicken in there, and vitamins and minerals mixed in. And then we take that out on a regular basis. We have, I've made a list for every day of the week how much of each kind that they need to take out. So all they got to do is, if it's Monday, okay, we're going to take this, this, and this out, and they just take it out and have a big cooler that they bring it into for it to thaw. And on average, it takes about 2 days for everything to thaw. So it's very important that we stay on schedule so that the food is thawed and ready to go at time. And then the interns have feeding charts for each route. The sanctuary is split up into 4 feeding routes. So each route has its own feeding chart with the cat that's on it, what they get to eat, and then totals of how much food needs to be bucketed up for those routes. And so I have a list, and every day there's different interns that do food prep on different days. And after cleaning and lunch, they start on food prep, they get it ready to go, and they get it all bucketed up and ready for the feeders. In summer, we eat 6 o'clock-ish, depending on rain. And it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to do the whole feeding process, from counting your buckets, make sure you have everything, actually going out, feeding all the cats, then back checking to make sure everybody got fed, and back up, clean up. Usually by 7:30-ish, 7:45, we're done feeding.
Wow. And I don't think you talked about the medications and how you handle that?
We have a process where the beds are put together in individual bags with the cat's name on it, the date, what the bed is, and whether it's a morning bed or a feeding bed. And we keep them in a locked cabinet, and I pull them out in the morning and in the evening, and someone that has been certified and trained to hand out meds goes out before everybody gets fed and actually physically gives the cat that med and make sure that they eat so that they have their meds before we feed them.
The big cats, the lions, tigers, and I guess some of the leopards and maybe even some of the cougars, I know you have to go around ahead of time and shut the doors so that they shut the doors to their feeding area so that the keepers can safely put the food in.
Yes.
And then open the cages back up. Is there some process by which after feeding you go back through to make sure all those cages are fully open?
Well, if they don't get open, then the cats don't get fed. Because we shut the lockout door, put the food in, and then everybody, and the cat comes in to eat. So that doesn't happen. It means somebody missed dinner.
Yeah, I've never heard of that happening. I was thinking more where you've got the Texas tigers where you have to actually completely separate them into separate cages before you can feed them.
Yes, that's part of the feeding. You go through and feed everybody, and once you get the last cat fed, you go back and open the separating doors.
What would your advice be to somebody who is thinking that they would love to get a job as an operations manager in a sanctuary somewhere?
What would be my advice? Go to the gym and work out really well. Because it's a hard physical job, let me tell you. It's like I want to say, stay in school and study, but I think you just have to go to a sanctuary and really get the experience, volunteering at a sanctuary. I think if someone just like came out of school with a wildlife degree and tried to jump right into the job fresh without ever having volunteered at a sanctuary anymore, I think it would be in for a very rude awakening. I think it would be a big surprise. I think you really need to. I feel like I really had an advantage by volunteering all those years before I actually came into this position, because I had at least some working knowledge of the process.
That's really interesting, because I tend to agree with you. I don't think there is any kind of school training that is going to prepare people for sanctuary work, and the only way they're going to get prepared for that kind of work is to actually do that kind of work, which means you're probably going to have to donate your time someplace to get the experience. It's especially with the big cats, they are so dangerous, and that's a big part of what you do, is making sure that these people are going to be safe around the cats. And you had mentioned the training before, but is there more that you can say about how you observe a person's behavior with the cats? We're going to hear Nikita Lion roaring, if the mic will pick it up, because she's roaring right outside my window. Can you hear her?
Yes.
So Nikita is on Cat Chat today. Can you go into a little bit more about what you do to make sure that people are safe out here? Because you've had a very good track record as far as people not getting injured on the job. The only injuries that I can think of have, since you've been in charge, have been people falling on barricades and such.
Yeah. I think it's the part of the training process is when you're going out to learn each section. When you go out to clean, you always go with someone that's experienced. And I think the important thing that people need to remember is that there's no one typical behavior for every cat. Sure, will they sleep 17, 20 hours a day? Yes. But when it comes to that actual cat's personality, every cat has a different personality. And every cat will not necessarily behave the same way with every individual person. So it's important that in general learn the general overall behaviors of how does a lion behave in general, how does a tiger behave in general. But then that person has to experience their interaction with that individual animal to really understand. Because, as you know, lately, one of our male lions, had been a bit not so nice.
I'm glad you didn't say what you usually say about him.
He has been a bit aggressive lately with some of the groupers. But yet, like 2 seconds after they say that he's like charged up the fence and roared and got mad at them, I can walk over there and he's calm and just laying there like it's no big deal. So I think it's important that everybody realizes that just because he behaves that way with me is not necessarily how he's going to behave that way with you.
Or even on different days.
Or on a different day. I mean, there's been times when I've gone out to do something with him, and he's a little grumpy, but he's not aggressive. But he could turn around, I could walk away, and someone else could walk away. He could get that really aggressive. So I think everybody thinks the most important thing is don't take the animal's behavior for granted.
And when you're talking about interaction, you're not talking about touching.
Oh, no. Just being around that animal and like verbally interacting with them, like talking with them, looking at them, to see if, maybe they've got a cut or a scratch or something, and you're looking at them, trying to get them to move this way or that way so that you can get a look at them. Yes, we're a no-touch facility. Our volunteers do not physically interact with our animals by touching them. This is all verbal.
And our staff do not interact by touching.
Well, staff are volunteers also, so yes. Yeah, we strictly do that like under sedation with a vet.
Have you ever volunteered anywhere else with any other types of animals?
No.
Have you?
Big Cat Rescue was my first animal volunteer experience.
And the same is true for me.
I actually worked at a vet clinic at one particular, for like 1.5 to 2 years. I was a vet clinic at a regular animal hospital.
Back when Dr. Stacy was our vet, she had commented, she had a small cat, domestic cat clinic, and it was called Carolwood Cats. And she had commented to me that it was much easier to deal with our big cats than deal with the domestic cats, because our big cats knew that they were at the top of the food chain and they didn't have anything to prove. I'm wondering how your experience in the vet clinics has compared with domestic animals to the animals that you have to deal with here.
Well, let's say dealing with cats and dogs on a one-on-one basis where you are actually physically touching them was a lot harder. It is a lot harder because there's a lot more physical holding and like you say, our cats here know that's not going to happen. So I think they're not as
freaked out.
Freaked out, right? Upset, worried. They're not as concerned because they know we're not going to be touching them. They know I'm going to do it if I want to, and if I don't, I'm not. And there's not anything we can do about it.
That's funny. I never thought about how, from the cat's perspective, they know we're not going to touch them.
Yeah, it's like they're going to go, yeah, no, I'm not doing that anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So.
You are involved in virtually all of the medical issues that go on out here. And with our population, I was looking at our population for the purpose, there was a place called Popcorn Park that had contacted Merritt Clifton and said, we think we have the oldest bobcat in the world, he's going to turn 20. And so Merritt said, well, since you have the oldest tiger in the world, I'm curious if you have any bobcats that are 20 yet. And I'm like, well, we have 20 cats that are over the age of 20 right now, which is pretty astonishing. So you deal every day with old age issues and the medications and such for these old age cats. But you also are the person who evaluates when the keepers call you on the radio and ask you to come look at a cat. You're the one making that initial evaluation and then either sending a picture or a video or text or sometimes all of those to our vets to determine what the next steps are. And then when those next steps take place, it usually is a matter of seeing if we can safely capture the cat and take them into the cat hospital or into Ehrlich Animal Hospital for blood tests and x-rays and that sort of thing. So in the course of doing that, what would you say are some of the things that you've learned about capturing a cat when you can't touch them?
I have learned to be a better reader of their body movements, tail twitches, ear twitches, how they're looking at you. There's always little telltale signs of what they're going to do because they may be moving. And I think, just like people, I think they try to psych you out. They act like they're going to move one way, but their eyes are moving somewhere else. I think I have learned my patience level for the cats has like quadrupled. You have to learn to be slow and think about every move you make before you make it. You can't just rush at them or swipe at them with the net. You have to anticipate. You have to kind of really watch them, see what they're going to do. You have to just be slow methodical and give them the food to eat to safely catch them.
I like that you said that it has increased your patience with the animals, because I think in almost any area of work, the more that you have to do something, probably the less patient you become with it. So it's interesting that that's a total reverse, in that the better way to deal with a cat is to become more patient and watch for their cues.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a proven fact. If you try to rush a cat, they're gonna run away from you, or they're gonna run at you. And I don't want them running at me. Yeah, I don't want them coming this direction. I want them, just to stay where they are.
And just to clarify, the biggest, well, the smallest, how would I put that? We don't go into a cage to catch with a net a lion, tiger, leopard, or cougar.
Yeah, and that would not be big enough.
It's only the cats that are smaller than that you would actually be in the cage while the cat is awake.
Right. I think the biggest of the cats we've actually caught in a net were like serval caribou, bobcat, anything lower than that. I think even the leak we have not really caught them in nets, more or less trying to herd them where we wanted them to go.
Yeah, I'm thinking when we moved Natasha, didn't we have to put nets around her and get her back into the squeeze cage? Was that who I'm thinking of?
I don't think so. I think we got her in lockout and just opened the lockout and she went into the squeeze cage.
Kind of explain how that looks. How that works. I mean, how we lock the cat up and then we go in and that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. So they have a small cage that's attached to their big feet and there's a guillotine door on it. So what we do is we bribe them to their lockout with a treat, and then we shut them in there. And then we have another cage that's portable that we put up to the door, and then we slowly open the lockout door, and they go into in an ideal situation, they just pop right in what we call the squeeze cage, which is a medical cage that has the ability to squeeze the cat down so that we can give them a shot or give them fluid, something like that, so they can move all around. And then we shut the door on that, and then we have handles where we can pick the cage up and create it to wherever we need to go with it.
How is that similar to the way that you deal with a cat when they are in the West Bench Cat Hospital here? As far as cleaning them.
Only they're in what we call a hospital cage, which again is a little bigger than their lockout, so that they can have room to move around. And again, there's a sliding door on it. They have 2 feet spaced together, and then we just shift it from side to side and put a door in so that we can clean out the as without the cat actually being there.
When you're dealing with a sick cat, I know it's often very difficult to get them to take their medications. Can you talk a little bit about some of the tips and tricks that you've learned to get their meds in them?
It's just, trying every variety of meat that can buy at a grocery store to see what they like, what they'll eat. Anything from fish, hamburger meat. We've done veal, we've done lamb. Anything to get to pique their interest, to try to get them to take their meds.
And we're down to our last 5 minutes. This always goes so fast. I notice on the wall behind you, you're talking with us from your office, which is in the studio building at the sanctuary. There are signs up on the walls. What are those?
Those are nameplates of nameplates of cats that we've got new signs for, and I've taken the old ones because we have new ones on the cages, or cats that have passed.
Do you have a favorite cat out here? I hate it when people ask me this question, but I just feel compelled to ask you that. Actually,
I have several favorite cats. The first, obviously, on my list is Angie Bobcat.
Really? First on your list?
Well, Angie was my first ever cat that I kind of, when I say interaction, I mean like enrichment and offering. She was my first ever offering cat, and back then as a register, I couldn't offer an offering, but we would go out and sit and read to cats, and she was very antisocial, and so I got assigned her. I pretty much sat for hours and read to her.
What would you read to her?
You're gonna laugh. I was reading Harry Potter.
I am gonna laugh. I love it.
I got the whole Harry Potter series. But yeah, she was my first ever cat. She's still my number one favorite.
Aww.
My next is Canyon. Canyon is my second little dude. And then I had to go with bigger cats. Saber, my favorite cougar passed away. That was Sylvester. So he passed away. And my favorite tiger was always been Flavio, but Alex is next on the list for tigers.
Aw. I just got an email this morning from Yahoo News. They want to pick up Flavio's fountain video, and they were asking a bunch of stories. So your favorite tiger is going to be getting some more exposure.
Yeah.
What would be your parting thoughts if it could be anything at all, but if there was anything that you wanted people to know about you, what would it be?
About me? I'm secretive. I don't want people to know things about me. I think that it's, at first, it might seem like I'm kind of hard to get close to in a friendship type level.
Have anything to do with that secretive personality?
Yeah, but I think if you make the effort, I'll make the effort, and I think you'll find you really won't have a better friend than me.
Wow. Well, that's excellent. I can't thank you enough for doing this today, because I know this was probably not in your top 10 list of things to do, and you've got 1,000 other things that you really need to be doing out there. But I thought it would really be interesting to the people who watch our show to see what it's like to be you, because so many people think they want to be you, but I can't imagine anybody would really want to be you.
Yeah, few of the people that have said that they would want to be me have followed me around a little bit, and at the end of the day they go, yeah, no.
It is not as glamorous as it looks or as it sounds. Well, thank you, Gail. This has been Cat Chat, and I hope you will join us every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time on Wild Animal Television or on the Big Cat Rescue Google Plus page. Bye.
Bye-bye.